DZ, but if they can start with a win, that would be huge today.
The other team that plays Mirage is Sonics.
Yes.
And they're in first place right now. So not that I want to throw shade on Mirage by any stretch of the imagination, but if Sonics win that matchup, which in theory they should, that will lock in their spot in the Berlin Major, meaning that there is a fight for those 3 remaining spots, at which point you have OXG in the hunt, you have XSET in the hunt. So 2 of the 3 teams that DZ plays from here on out are considered favorites to make it to Berlin. That is a very strong schedule against them. That's not what you want. Operator bands rolling in as we go to Villa. Thatcher and Flores, joined by a Valkyrie and Kaid. Anything out of the ordinary here?
Yeah, I think some surprises here. When we last saw Oxygen play this map, they played it once in recent times. That was at the Major down in Charlotte. It was against Team 1, and they banned Jackal Valk, so the Valkyrie coming through once again. They go for the Flores this time around. Oxy banned a lot of Mira. That was a possibility, but Mira's not super popular on Villa, so it makes sense they don't run it this time. A zombie getting through is definitely notable. We see a zombie played relatively often on this map as well. Very strong in kind of the study area, can block off a lot of windows, so we see a lot of use from that. Pamba's going to pick it up for the very first round. The other op that I thought we might see getting banned out was the Nook. Nook has been banned a ton so far in the NAL. Both Auction and DarkZero have banned Nook 50% of the time, but slipping through today as Thatcher and Flores go out instead. So no Nook, at least for now. We've got some repick coming in from Laxing, going Capitao to Zofia, rocking the double LMG instead. Very happy with that, and yeah, ultimately operator bans, certainly some surprises, but nothing nothing crazy. The fact they went Thatcher and Kaid together does make sense for DC.
Zombie comes out right away, and always interested to see the way that new operators get brought. A very different story than Sens, the other new operator. Their impact on the NAL has been quite low. Not a lot of time to talk about Sens as we get underway in round number 1, but Azami will remain top of mind. Those Kiba barriers can be applied just about anywhere. General consensus among teams is that she is very formidable and extremely strong, but on a map like Villa, I like the Valk ban, and Kaid to match the Flores and the Thatcher ban are particularly crucial as well.
NGR trying to peek the study doorway. Nobody's on it. Canadian bottom floor might be the bigger threat. Newer's and Vert both down there trying to hunt him down, make sure he doesn't go for any sneaky plays. Of course, Canadian has been one of those players that has flexed around from support to kind of fragger to roamer. He does like to play a little bit more aggressive when he's on the defense. Nice Kiba barrier from Pamba. Oftentimes people will run 2 shields on these main stairs, but utilizing one of those shield spots as a Kiba barrier instead does allow you a little bit more flexibility. They don't have to bring 2 shields this time, and that's a pretty fun angle. The way that he's able to crouch down there is very nice. It's Newers, though, who opens things up on a hyper.
Highlighted early on before we got into the matchup today, he will be an incredibly crucial player for OXG in this matchup, especially against the offensive threats that DarkZero has. Not every NAL team has a player who can go toe-to-toe with the likes of NJR, the likes of Panbazoo, the likes of Hyper. While 2 of those threats are no more for DarkZero, as Oxygen stretches their lead, number advantage in a 5v3. Half of the round still to go, so they're in pretty good shape for OXG.
NJ dying on the smoke is really tough here. Eclipse going down as well takes away another SMG-11 shotgun combo from the board. Fox with the F2 will grab that one, and we're even cleaning it up farther. Newers takes down one more, and it's going to be a flawless round as Vert finds Canadian for the final kill.
Just playing keep away on these defenders as they try to get back to the bomb site. OXG starting things off flawlessly, not allowing a single pick for DarkZero, even though the engagements were there. These were not target dummies that they were shooting at. DZ had opportunities to fight back. Didn't really work out all that well. We can talk about the stats of the different bomb sites, but taking a step back and looking at the broader way that Villa is played out, you'll find that as of this moment, it actually has the highest defender win rate of every single map in the North American League through stage number 2. It's actually the most played map, tied with Bank, Oregon, and Theme Park at 5 plays apiece coming into today. Every single Villa bomb site that has been played, which is only 3 of them, has a favorable win rate for the defenders. The only bomb site that we haven't seen get played at all is that living room library. Not a single play so far through stage 2. 20 times teams have gone to Aviator Games. 19 times to Trophy Statuary and 15 times to Kitchen Diner.
We're 2 rounds in, but I'll give you a little prediction. I bet DarkZero run it. I bet DarkZero run Living Room Library at least once throughout this matchup. They played it one time against Astralis in the major grand finals in Charlotte. They were able to win that bomb site relatively strongly. So if it's one they want to go to, they can whip that one out. Trophy Statuary, DarkZero played 4 times in that match against Astralis. It was a 15-round game, so they got to play it in overtime as well. Lost it every single time on defense. Still, they have confidence they're going to run it back one more time against Oxygen. This will be their 5th play, hoping to maintain an above 0% win rate.
Oh, the Azami obviously not being particularly crucial, but nobody on that round was for DarkZero. Utility work wasn't really the storyline, as it seemed like OXG just waltzed on in and got kill after kill after kill. We didn't see an attempt at an execute. I don't even think a single member of OXG actually made it into the bomb site. They didn't need to. I guess that just goes to show you that sometimes you live and die by the roam game.
I mean, that's what we saw a lot on Chalet last match, right? It was all determined based on how the roamers did. We might see that as well on Villaville. Definitely does tend to be a little bit more site-focused, and certainly Trophy Stats at bomb site, where unless you're trying to push all the way in through the game side, I mean, you are going to mainly be focusing on this bomb site. Pamba, the first one down from a nade, and he's likely to be, well, it depends. They could throw in another nade and probably get this. I don't know that they know that he's down either. It's hard to pick him up, and you can see Auction trying to swing to find that finish off, but they just haven't got it yet. They've got a ping on him as well, so they know he's there. Realistically, nobody's picking this up, and with the nade, they'll finish it off anyways.
So you expend another one of those explosives, but still OXG gets that opening pick, even if Pambazoo at that point was living to die. Canadian next one up as the focus from OXG onto the statuary portion of the bomb site. Canadian tucked in next to that statue. OXG will swing towards 90 as there goes an Adrenal Surge as well. First kill for DZ in this matchup comes from Hyper. It's on to Dream. A nice nade from Vertical. Should connect, but it's a little bit too late. No! Vertical walks right by. Eclipse on those Astro Stairs. Fox A answers back. The killing shall come with a minute to go, and it shall be glorious, friends. Hyper swung on by. Laxing lined up in so many bullets that he can continue to fire away. NJR's Nitro Cell and a nice SMG in his hand will be all that she wrote. And oh! NJR finds 2 with second on the ground. The explosive can't get it done, but as he pops up, the man, the myth, the Twitter legend, Newers himself, cleans up on that final 1v1. OXG 2-0.
Nice play from Newers. I actually really was impressed by Laxing, pushing into Astro with the Zofia and finding 2 kills to make that such a difficult round for DarkZero to claw back. He really did have a huge impact walking in there. And it's not typically a role that we see Laxing try to play over on the Zofia. He's usually more of that flank watch. He's been a big Gridlock fan in the past. Obviously, as a flank watch, you're going to be playing a lot of Nomad. We've seen that from him quite a bit as well. Looking at the Zofia stats, he has never played that operator so far through stage 1, so his first time here on this map, and I think he's looking very, very good with a nice LMG.
Well, the old Finca crutch, as they call it. A target ban in our previous matchup, for those that didn't watch, which went up against Beast Coast in particular, and Sweater was off of the Finca, and his stats on attack suffered because of it. There's no Finca ban this time, so expect to see a 100% pick rate for this LMG wielding operator that also gets the best out of the rest of the ops that'll be run on the team. There's another LMG on the board, or was rather, as it's an attacker repick for Laxing off of the Zofia. When you look at the sheer amount of bullets that a Finca and a Zofia can spray out of their guns, well, you look at the lineup for the defenders, and they've got 30 bullets in some of these guns, 20 bullets in some of these guns. You run out of munition way faster than your opponents do. And I mean, even in that previous round, Laxing's play over from Bathroom into Astronomy shows you exactly why having 150 bullets is such a benefit.
Canadian playing like he did in that first round, just being a little bit of a nuisance on this bottom floor. He's going to face a lot of pressure. He wants a kill. Oh, nicely done. Headshot on a vertical through the window. That's what you like to see coming forward for the opening pick on Canadian. Again, he's been kind of an aggressive player. He's actually got Hyper down here with him. Newers wants to trade this out, looking at the right angle. Can he spot this frag? As I believe that's Pam on the main stairs, hunting for these frags, but Newers just not able to find any just yet. They are retreating.
He still has marks for him. A Frost in play as well. So with the way that DZ is holding these choke points on the map, you cannot hop in without taking an engagement either with the mat, which will down you, or somebody who's sitting on top of it waiting, and that's exactly how DZ is structured. This, like so many teams before them, guard the Frost mat. Make them decide, do I go for the player? Do I go for the mat? Either way. Just over a minute burned through this round. DZ scampered off of the bomb site. Pambazoo holds above. We also saw the fade away from Hyper down through the basement. He'll run through that wine component of this map and still stay down there, actually holding these angles. Pambazoo biding time with those Kiba barriers, and now he is Canadian as well to support. OXG's next steps, clear out that top floor. Do they know of the upstairs focus from DarkZero? That's the question that'll need to be answered.
I mean, that is typically the way you go, but they're actually not clearing in through the top floor. Fox is going to work his way up Astro. This is a chance for him. Top the stairs, Eclipse wins the gunfight. Eclipse swings a little too wide, and Fox with the F2 will take him down. So that's a nice little pick there. But again, this is definitely a horizontal push. Newer's all the way already outside the bomb site. Fox as well, looking down those stairs, willing to catch a flanker who might come down. It's actually Pamba chasing down from the top floor, working down Astro stairs. We'll see if they can find the pinch on with Canadian working with Fox as well. He just runs away down the basement. He doesn't need to engage this.
Pambazoo's on the hunt, but man, that thing is a bullet hose. The F2 just crushing a triple kill for Fox, the leader, taking matters into his own hands, and suddenly OXG with the numbers advantage. Try to collapse onto Hyper. NJR's the next one to go, laxing a kill, and ace denied for Fox. As Dream gets the diffuser down, it leaves Hyper in a 1v3 to retake. Through some of the furniture. Really nicely covered over inside a Memorial is damage done by Hyper, but he's boxed out by his own Kiba barriers. Well, not his, but his team's. Pambazoo has denied Hyper re-entry to the bomb site and will now be 30 seconds away from imminent doom. This allowed OXG to get away from the bomb site, get away from the diffuser, but they still hold true, and Foxay's fourth kill. Pause and a tactical timeout, as you pointed out, which I'm glad that you made mention of that, because yes, coaches are only allowed to talk to the teams once to twice a matchup, and those are during each team's respective timeout. If DZ calls a timeout, which, by the way, they did at the tail end of round number 3, they and the coach of their opponent's team are allowed to talk to the respective teams. During the tech pause, they're not allowed to do that.
Yeah.
So OXG ends up with the team that ends up getting that tech pause, but it was DarkZero who burned their timeout right before that.
Yep. It's difficult for DarkZero being in this position because they, we've talked about how they were a dominant attacking team at the Charlotte Major, and then this stage, the script has been flipped. They've been much better on defense than attack. But I do want to say, I think DarkZero in their most recent matchup, where they were playing against, I want to say it was Astralis that they played last. No, TSM, my bad. I thought they actually had really strong pushes in that matchup, and so I'm hoping that the kind of strong DZ pushes we know them for have kind of made a comeback. Now, they're once again rocking the Azami. Okay, they've got a setup extended over towards game side. Pambazoo and Hyper are going to be working together. This is a tough nut to crack. This Kiba barrier that we see from Pamba inside a study, probably the most common use of Azami on this map so far. It's a very good angle to deny that study door. And after seeing it, Auction actually abandoned the south side push and have moved almost their entire team. In fact, yeah, they moved everybody to the master bedroom north side.
You know, it's not often that you encounter tough nuts, but when you're cracking nuts, you don't want one of them to be too tough, Jesse. So I completely agree with you. Excellent synopsis of what we're looking at. OXG have very quickly made their way into Master, and Newers might have an opportunity here as he sees for a fleeting second the gun barrel. But the shadows elude him. The silhouette's on the other side of the wall, but Pambazoo does not and decides to peek the doorway. I will imagine DZ will be bamboozled by how close OXG were to the bomb site.
Pamba, that's the second time he's been the opening death in the exact same position on this bomb site. This time it was a wild swing, maybe not playing as passive as he should have been in the middle of the doorway, but he does get punished one way or another. Another fight. Fox takes the gun and wins it over Canadian. Bit of a scrappy one. Don't know if they were both expecting that.
I don't think they were at all. DZ gets a perfect lineup onto Newers and Vertical with NJR and Hyper credited with those kills. That allows DZ to push out of the bomb site a little bit more and hold on to some of these aggressive positions. Laxing knows that there's a player sitting behind boxes in astronomy, whichever one you want to call it, but it's a bit of boomer aim from Laxing. Not as well done as a steak that Laxing would certainly not eat. Suddenly it's Dream in a 1v3. Things started off very well for OXG, but they kind of lost the plot. And now Dream will need to swing, finds one. Another lined up inside of Astro. He'll push, but it's a crossfire from NJR. They didn't expect him there. Doesn't matter where he is, but he lays in wait. And DZ gets their first round. Still, OXG with quite the lead.
An extraordinarily similar round to what we saw in round number 2 last time that they were here on Trophy Stat, in that it was, again, an opening death from Pamba in the exact same spot that he died in previously, and that came down to a 3v3 that really did rely on Laxing pushing into Astro and winning some gunfights. Last time, the Zofia LMG served him well. He managed to make it work. This time, dying in that engagement meant that his teammates were really not left well off. Fox dying on the south side of things didn't help much either. Dream in the 1v3 did his best, but ultimately that's not going to be one that you're coming away with very often. Maybe just a little bit of experience from Laxing on this operator. Again, he's never played this op throughout this stage before today, so, I mean, not that Zofia is necessarily an op that most pros are going to be unfamiliar with, but still, it's not his typical operator. Usually when he's playing flank watch, he is on more of those standard flank watch roles. So, not winning out one way or the other today, and it's going to cost them their first round.
It's working out effectively, but I think OXG, when they got in, they knew what they needed to do. They stacked up and just weren't as well practiced through that mid-round. I mean, it's hard to tell because of how frantic some of that action was as to what went wrong for OXG, but DZ, what went right? An awful lot. Panbazoo, by my measure, is still not on the scoreboard for a kill. I believe he was 0-3 before we saw Rios come in.
Right.
You know, your eyes don't deceive you. This is not just a 1-1 game, no. NJR has 3 kills through just 1 round. That's impressive stuff. And that's because he was left all on his own by Trophy.
Based on this drone, you can tell Vertical is about to Gara hook up the 90 hatch, but it'd actually be NJR who takes down the man we were just discussing, Laxing, for the opening pick of the round. He's going to go through the window instead of the hatch, Vert, depending on what he's feeling. There's nobody there, so he shouldn't get punished for it. Eclipse is over by landing, so that could be a problem, but currently not going to be holding the angle. He should be able to get in safely. It all depends on what Eclipse is looking at when he jumps on in. Of course, doesn't have to either. Just because you've got the Gara hook doesn't mean that you have to use it.
I think Laxing's death might actually stop Vert's brazen play because it is a very risky gamble to take, and if it doesn't pay off, then your team ends up in an even worse spot. Good news for them, though. Newer's on one today. Down goes Panbazoo, still searching for his very first kill. Vertical awaiting the call to go towards 90. Could somebody be in that particular area? We'll wait to find out. We're still halfway to go in this round, so plenty of time left. Another Adrenal Surge, 1 left for Newers, 2 times, burned early on. Vertical is in. We'll close in on one of the DZ members, but look at nobody nearby. A second kill from Newers. He has been the big threat, but that's all she wrote in this round. Eclipse takes him out. Vert's in the midst of the bomb site now, just wandering right in. Down goes Eclipse. Suddenly it's the off-site play from DarkZero. Canadian downstairs being that nuisance as you discussed, and Hyper will contest against Fox-A, leaving Dream all on his own to get the diffuser down. Canadian sees him and engages. Fox-A splays out onto Hyper, and now Canadian is gone too. Suddenly, DZ's attempt to get back falls short, and OXG will claim the first half no matter what happens in the final round as they're up 4-1.
Gorgeous push. They had a 2-2 split going on. Gorgeous! 2-2 split. 2 players going in through study, 2 players coming around kind of the 90 area. We saw, of course, the entry coming in that 4v4 with Newers walking in through study, taking down NJR. Did get traded from Eclipse, but then who was there right afterwards? It was Vertical, who had done the Gara, who jumped in through the 90 window, managed to get the trade in, and then they had site control. Dream, that other study player, was able to walk on in. I like his plant position. He went right in the corner of Aviator in the northeast corner, was able to put the kit down. We did see Canadian swinging that, and I think the idea was that it would be covered from Vertical, who was back behind the bar, was able to get an angle on it. Dream just said, screw it, I'm going to take the gunfight anyways, and worked out for him. Got a lot of damage, got the kill. But ultimately, yeah, that was a really well-rehearsed push from Oxygen. That's something that you just don't see unless a team's at the top of their game when it comes to coordination.
Well, DarkZero's had some good games. They've had some off games. I feel like their consistency has been their biggest issue so far this stage, which is a bit odd because there weren't any real consistency issues with the team when it comes to the Charlotte Major. And furthermore, the one thing that I think is the most damning for DarkZero at this particular moment is that they are the best defending team in the North American League, and they are on the most favorable map for defenders, and they are defending on the most favorable map as the best defending team, and they have a single round. That is the most troubling thing. If the #1 defending team on the #1 defender-sided map, who is currently defending, cannot get more than 1 to 2 rounds on defense, that is a huge loss. And honestly, kudos to OXG for cracking that tough nut.
We've talked a lot on the desk
I thought you were going to say we talk a lot about nuts, and I was like, they're hard to crack.
That they are, but typically the nut talk is saved for after the desk. Typically on the desk, we talk more about DarkZero and their slow starts. They've lost every round one, barring one game. Parker's holding in a laugh. Barring one game, which was their most recent win over TSM. They always tend to lose that very first round. So this is no surprise that they've gone down early in this game, but in best of ones, it's very hard for them to pull these back. Canadian hunting for a kill. It's free. Vertical on a drone will find it. That's the Capitao gone. Again, Canadian's been so consistent on these bottom floor roams. And also, I want to say, I called it. Living Room Library.
It's the first time that we're going to see this bomb site. Why not? Go for a Hail Mary. You've already failed at your task of winning the better side, quote unquote. So go to the bomb site that is showing off today. It's its debut. Misplay from Vert, though. That's a lot of utility off the board as Canadian had gotten that pick, as you talked about. Capitao down means no smokes, no fire, no displacement as well. When you look at the two panels in the back of Living Room, there's great opportunity to get your smokes down and try to get a plant off. There are no smokes available for OXG. It was all on the shoulders of Vertical. So now that tool is just unavailable. And you've got to imagine, with this being the bomb site, how critical Capitao could have been and how much this will hurt. Oxygen will have to just go for kills now, as utility might not be in their favor. But never mind, sorry. Go for kills is absolutely correct. Dream's in the bomb site. He's got the diffuser. He can go for a plant. But DZ being off-site is gunning down the OXG players. Dream's position given away. They might collapse on him over by Vault. What's he going to do? Out goes a drone. Canadian still off-site. 30 seconds left. DZ know that he's in the middle of the bomb site, but Dream is not getting the diffuser down because there's a lot more work to be done. Laxing, punishing Canadian off-site. They know that the Jaeger is trying to re-enter. Dream will go for a plant. Panba walks on in, being baited perhaps, as he can't control the recoil. Adrenal Surge comes out from OXG. Newers pushes up. Down goes Pamba. It was indeed a bait, so Eclipse will have to drop. Can't get to Dream in time, but he's trapped now inside of the bathroom. Laxing comes in, flushes him out, and it's Hyper in a 1v2. By the door, diffuser miles away. Jiggling back and forth. Two good guns from OXG still up, including the raid boss of Newers. It's Laxing to seal the deal. A big play from OXG, and just like that, the most defender-sided map. Well, it's a 5-1 first half for the attackers.
That was another amazing push from Oxygen. What they did there was Fox got a drone right on NJR, who's playing smoke inside of Library. And instead of Fox trying to get in and get this kill for himself, they sent Dream with the defuse kit. Full sent it through the bomb site and found the kill onto NJR, who wasn't even watching at the correct angle. Really well played. The coordination was fantastic. Then they tried to move around and take care of Pamba, who was over by the front door. Now Fox did die to that angle, but again, Dream had control of the site, so he was doing perfectly fine on his own. Meanwhile, we saw Laxing down on the Astro Stairs side of things, cleaning up the roamers, making sure Canadian didn't have any more impact than he already had in that game. Just really well put together push, and I was worried because Auction Esports weren't clearing out the top floor of this bomb site. And typically, when you're attacking on Living Room Library, that's what you do. You take control of Vault, you take control of Aviator Games, and then you've got a pretty free push down to the bottom floor. Auction completely ignored that. They went for a really interesting push. They utilized drones. Dream was bold and got into the sites. I thought that was perfect. Newers maneuvered around the east side of the map very well as well. Just a great push from OXG, and because of it, a 5-1 split, which statistically is hard to come back from.
Very hard. No more nut talk. So we can't talk about tough nuts to crack, no more nuts at all, but this one will indeed be, and I will say it for the final time, this will be a tough nut to crack too. DarkZero will climb up a very steep hill to try and equalize against OXG, who've now positioned themselves in a great spot to not necessarily clinch a Berlin major spot, but pretty much do so.
Realistically, OXG winning this in regulation would be huge for their chances. Not 100%, but it's got to be above 90, I'd have to estimate. OXG looking very good right now for the major. But again, DarkZero known for their excellent attacks, and I think last game we started to see that come back a little bit. We've got the Lion play being pulled off as they try to push forward into the sites, try to clear out this bottom side as well over by the south. Pamba's inside of the Red Hall in 90. We've got Fox up of the top floor as well, trying to roam about. Eclipse with the diffuse kit actually over by Laundry. They're just clearing out roamers at the time being. Oxygen have mostly retreated from their south side roam. They're mostly pushing back towards their own site now, thinking that the Lion charge was enough to scare them off and fall back a little bit.
All right, well, We can talk about strength of schedule later on. OXG does not have a cakewalk, by the way, moving forward. They still have Space Station and XSET, so there is potential that they could lose both of those matchups, but these 3 points in regulation would be a massive cushion. Again, it starts to be less about how well you do and how well your opponents do, because for a team like DarkZero, a loss here still keeps them at 9 points. Parabellum is at 11 points with their victory today, so there's still a chance that they can make it through. But you then need both XSET and Parabellum to not win their games, and that's where it ends up out of your hands. So do or die for both teams. Effective lead. OXG, those 3 points would regain the lead. They'd sit at 16. That would be a huge boon for them. Vertical going down first to NJR. Fox answers back. So DarkZero's entry upstairs not working out, but look at this. Panbazu's in the middle of the bomb site and finds 2 big kills. Suddenly, DZ have control. And OXG's off-site players will need to get to the bomb site. Down goes Eclipse. Lion goes out. Fox A still dancing around from above. DZ an advantage. They'll hunt for Fox. For sport. For honor. Whatever you'd like to say. Panbazoo, after those 2 kills, has the diffuser in hand. Those were his first 2 kills. Newers wakes it back in, but Canadian is watching. Fox A will need to do even more. And it will indeed be a Fox hunt, as that's a beautiful shot from him on the Canadian. Canadian's not exactly known for their Fox hunting prowess. Fox A will get shot in the back, though, as there's 2 different players from DZ positioned beautifully, one inside a bike and the other sitting on top of the diffuser, and DZ stay alive.
It's crazy what happens when you give a kid an LMG. Pamba switches over to attack, and he is having a party.
Are you saying something about LMGs being
Parker, I think
strong?
I think Finka is a strong operator, and I think that's a big reason why players like Pambazoo have been so successful. Not to take away anything from Pamba. Obviously, he's a great player, and he was picked up before LMGs dominated this game. There's a big reason for that, but he has absolutely been utilizing those LMGs to their fullest potential. He's been great there. That's that little push in through the south side. That's the great pushing power that we know from DarkZero that we talked about coming into this game. It may be a super attacker-sided Villa. I know your small sample size stats say otherwise, but I do think that Villa can be a little bit more even when you look at the broader scope of these of the sites that we have inside of Rainbow Six right now. Certainly is defender-sided, but again, in the meta that we're in today and with the teams that we've got playing right now, I definitely do think the attacks have been looking very, very good. So, all in all, big start from Pamba, but there's a long way to go when it's 5-2 on the scoreboard.
5 seconds to insertion.
Well, well, well. Up top to Aviator Games, played so far twice in this matchup, won by the attackers both times. The only bomb site that went in favor of the defense was Trophy, and that's in fact the only successful bomb site and only successful round for the defenders up to this point, which is such an oddity to say, because while we look at small sample sizes for a lot of these maps, Villa has been played the most. It's in a 4-way tie with 5 plays through stage number 2, and it is so decisively defender-sided that having these numbers be flipped on their heads is a bit odd, especially when you look at the operator bans. Thatcher and Flores being banned out should be a boon to the defender. Valkyrie is a pretty typical ban. She gets banned quite frequently here. And Kaid is not enough as well to really tip the favor in this being an attacker-sided Villa. I'm not really sure what we're seeing. Anyway, that said, first minute of action. Nade gets tossed out by Pambazoo, does not connect with any target. So, a little bit of utility used.
Jackal from Canadian has been one of his favorite operators here on Villa. It's one that Oxygen banned the last time they were on this map against Team 1, the Charlotte Major. It's obviously been left up now in favor of a Flores ban, another one of Canadian's favorite operators. So we'll see if the Jackal can find any value in clearing out these roaming players. Fox is kind of on that side of the map right now. NJR from the bottom floor trying to work up with Canadian, maybe do some cross-map pinching vertical the other player on this north side in Noir setting, trying to roam around and take down Canadian.
We have indeed traveled back to the 1920s, where we have lost all color in our visuals. There we go. Oh, nope. And, well, they're still red. So this is very Schindler's List-esque, actually, if you've seen that movie. It's all black and white except for the girl in the red coat.
It's true.
This time around, it was the reticle. Of course, that was red. Colors return to our screen, as that's a minute off the clock. Nades have been used by DZ to no effect whatsoever. 3 tossed out. 1 still remains in the hands of NJR. There was an EE1D burned earlier on as well by Hyper, and a second will come out. It had found the smoke, if I remember correctly, of Dream early on. DZ now hitting the gas. There they go. Adrenal Surge goes out. Down goes the cam on Astro stairs. But Pambasu's wary of being flanked out. Maybe that was Newer's job. NJR, the very first kill for DarkZero. And oh no, it wasn't intended for him, but Vertical goes down as he rotates back to the bomb site. Foxay now will have to deal with what lies below. That's NJR. DZ staining the walls of Villa with the blood of OXG. Laxing and Dream to clutch. This is a big ask for them. Diffuser still in the hands of Eclipse. Nitro Cell ready for Laxing. Dream in a pivotal position. And he takes down the Diffuser, but he's the only one left, and he knows that. They'll push him from the back. He needs to get that deployable shield, but he can't do it in time. The leader of DZ, Canadian.
On that, maybe you want your roamers to fall back a little bit earlier. They'd already denied 2 minutes. You don't have to keep playing on that north side if you've already gotten that value. If they'd fallen back, stayed alive a little bit longer, the push for DZ would have been very difficult. But of course, they got those man advantages anyways, and we saw DarkZero run away with the round. So I'm telling you, Parker, although it's a 5-1 split, both these teams are so good at attacks, this very well could go to overtime or even 7-5.
And if you look at what happened as well in that first half, while OXG did win 5-1, there were some warning signs. Number one, early leadoff picks that were in favor of DZ through 3 rounds. So 3 rounds, DZ had an advantage, and some small thing fell apart. It could have been the mid-round. It could have just been a big clutch moment. It could have been a pretty fast trade back in favor of OXG. But still, it was not as decisive stats-wise when you get into those advanced fancy stats. It was still not as decisive for OXG. OXG was indisputably the better team, and they had some, as you called them, beautiful executes.
I did.
But I mean, it's been closer than the scoreline would suggest. And now with this timeout from OXG, can they right the ship in time? That is going to be the question.
I think Auction took a little bit longer to heat up on their attacks. The ending of that first half was really, really good for OXG. The start definitely was a little bit scrappier, but 5 rounds, they'll be happy with that. DZ have started a lot hotter on their attacks, and they've gotten the undefeated streak to prove it through 2 rounds. They've rocked the Nook now, and this is the operator that we see banned quite often from both these teams. Canadian jumping on it. He has been that flex player from DarkZero who rocked a lot of different operators, bringing it out today here to try to clear over from the south side. And we see a bit of a roam. Fox and Vert both here on the south side in Aviator Games, both retreating as of now. Fox a little bit slower, but he gets out no problems. NJ on the 90 window doesn't catch anything, so everybody's back towards the north side of the map. Everyone's back to site. Laxing below, but ultimately this is a 0 gain roam clear, other than time.
Time is exactly what we're looking at right now. Approaching the halfway mark of the round, which means that we're out of Discovery. And into the mid-round. Canadian lurking underneath the bomb site. With 2 nades in hands, we effectively refer to these as depth charges.
Sure.
Rampy, a fan of the depth charge. Most nade kills in the league right now. They're up against TSM in the next matchup. Canadian has 2 in his pocket. DZ's nades on the 2 rounds that we've seen so far, not as lethal as they could be. And I mean, there's partially some theory to that about drone work, but additionally just common spots being naded too. OXG holding backside of the bomb site, over by Astro, over by Bedroom, but they've got some roamers too, and that's Canadian who's on the hunt. He thinks there's one down in Kitchen, but look at this, almost back-to-back. Canadian and Laxing, but in very different places. The more time that Canadian uses down here, the less is going to be spent on the actual execute. So that's incumbent upon the rest of his team to pull something off.
Laxing bringing the barbed wire instead of the C4 means he's not a crucial must-kill operator down here, but of course if he takes down Canadian and flanks up those Astro stairs, could be a problem late. They're going to be pushing this from landing side though, and with everybody ready and flashes going in, it's not long for the push.
Canadian will check this corner, and it's an easy kill for Laxing. He can head back up Astro. Newers hits his shots as well. A double piece for him playing by the bomb. DZ falling by the wayside. Diffuser not quite within reach. Laxing gets another on the stairs, a fight that he maybe should not have won, and a flawless round could be had by OXG as long as Hyper is unable to drag one down with him. He gets his kill, but it's traded out by Vertical, and OXG secure themselves at least 1 point by picking up their 6th round.
There's something that both analysts who have come on as guests so far in this stage have said to me about Oxygen. Tommy said on the desk that sometimes Vertical bails out Oxygen, and Joe said something similar when he said that, you know, sometimes Oxygen kind of rely on Vertical. I'm going to disagree with both of our former pros and former coaches. I really think Newers is the real deal. Some people say, okay, maybe Oxygen's putting him in positions where he's able to get more kills. But even without an LMG, you saw it in that round. He's playing perfect position positions. He's hitting so many great shots, and he talked about in the video prior to this matchup how confident he is. He goes into every gunfight believing he's going to win it, and more often than not, he does. 6-4 since the rehost. I don't recall exactly the stats before rehost, but I promise you he was positive. So ultimately, he's got to have a very good KD after this match ends out, unless things go very, very bad for Auction following this. But I just think Newers is such a strong player and has been so good for Auction throughout this stage and last stage as well. He's making an extremely strong case for Rookie of the Year this year.
I completely agree. I think that the bigger issues that Newers had was just simply mental, right?
Yes.
He had that lull at the end of stage 1, but he seemed to bounce back mentally for the team during the Charlotte Major, and now his stats so far through stage 2 have been frankly impeccable. And I know that you said, well, he's going to make a good run for Rookie of the Year. Obviously, everybody knows that Troy Canadian is always in the hunt for that. He's looking for Rookie of the Year 7 years in a row.
True.
But I mean, you look at his rating. He's a 1.33.
Yep.
Next was Sweater at 1.23. In terms of KD, he's a plus 33. Next was Gunner at plus 26. In terms of entry, he's not on the list, but that's okay. He's not on the list for cost either. But that doesn't matter because his role, while maybe not main entry, his role on Finca has been better than every other Finca in the league, and I think that's really what needs to be noted. Yeah, I think you can probably admit that Finca is a bit overtuned at the moment, and players excel on her not because of their own skill, but because of the operator. I honestly think Newers is a player who can excel on other roles too, and should something ever change with Finca, it will actually be very entertaining to see how he accomplishes his goals on other operators. Speaking of accomplishing their goals, Foxay gets a kill, immediately peels off. Hyper to walk up next in another challenge, but they don't have any information as to where Foxay is. They want to fight him inside of games? No, they don't. Instead, he'll spray over and do damage to Hyper. Negates the entire Adrenal Surge that had just been used by Panbazoo. It also means that Hyper now, with half of the round to go, has used all of his EE1Ds. I think that's a smart move, given that he could be 1 foot in the grave.
In the first half, we saw Auction come against a very similar setup, and what they did is as soon as they saw the Azami, as soon as they saw there was a roam on the south side, they said, screw it, we're not doing this, and then they hit Master. Instead, DarkZero tried to force that south side push. They walked in with a Finca charge, they walked in with a Lion charge, and then they just lost NJR. And it was a really tough gunfight for them to win. Fox had a beautiful swing. Now they've given up and they've gone to this north side push. They're just going to be trying to hit the bomb site, but it's a little too late, right? You've already lost one of your key players, and this is going to be difficult for them to push into the bomb site without that man advantage.
A slew of Capkin traps is the trail for DarkZero to go from Bike to Memorial into the bomb site. Watch your ankles, lads, or else they could be removed. From above, Newers doing work with his firearm. Panbazoo wanders in aimlessly, gets gunned down. Eclipse is the next one, who could be fed upon. Newers is having a hell of a game. Hyper goes down. OXG have this one in the bag. At least it sure seems. And in fact, it does. It was almost as if I foretold a prophecy. The final 2 kills come in, and OXG close the door on a DZ comeback. 3 huge points as OXG get back on top. And while they haven't secured a spot to Berlin, it seems like their ticket is in the process of being booked. 3 points.